I'm hitting the record right now. All right, so welcome everybody. And as I see people come in, I will admit them. But today is about our new judges, and I see a bunch of you on here. So wait a minute. So start introducing yourself. Don't run into it, and tell us a little bit about yourself. And what are your strengths, weaknesses, blah blah blah, this and that. But we want to talk about how many judgings you have been invited to this year. Some clubs that are coming in are later programming or don't program the full year. So wait, I see Shlomo, you're over there. You're first on my computer. You might have to go first.
Wow, really?
Yeah. There you go. So
okay. Shlomo Haviv, I have tried four different clubs since I started 6 or 7 years ago with a friend, and landed quickly on Camnuts, and from Camnuts through Jordan, who did a great job, to Livingston. And I like them both for obviously different reasons. At Livingston, you can do anything. Camnuts is Camnuts. It's not. It's nature, which is most of what I do, and most of what I love. Strengths, weaknesses. My weakness is judging, which is why I do not plan, Roman, I'm sorry. I do not plan on judging anytime soon. I have to do something to get there, to get to the ability to see something that I cannot stand and find good things to say about it. The artistry of judging, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the funny part. So everybody who's here at the meeting now, I want you to invite these new judges to view your competition. Since everybody's doing Zoom, invite them to sit in on the competition so that they can see the more seasoned judge. Yes, Phil, I'm talking about you. And how they judge. Because by inviting these newer judges in, that's the way you learn. Basically you learn by sitting in the hot seat, as I like to call it. But instead of sitting in the hot seat, by watching how other judges critique, that helps you immensely. So that's why I'm reaching out to all the presidents and delegates. Let them sit into your meetings in competitions. I know Becky's judging tonight, so you can't do it tonight, but other times. So yeah, that's why we wanted this, because that's how you're going to get experience and more comfortable doing what you're doing.
Sounds good.
So Ellen, I see you up next in my queue.
Ellen Stein, president of Cranford Milburn, secretary for Camnats, and incoming president for the Federation.
Yay.
By virtue of being in the two clubs, I shoot a little bit of everything. What else do you?
How many judgings have you gotten this year?
Roman.
Hey, Eric.
Am I late or am I early?
No.
You're late.
I have one.
Somebody else is on.
You're right on time.
Oh, that's great.
So have you
watch me eat my meal?
All right. Have you gotten? You can mute your microphone or just stop your video. We got Ellen on. So
What happened?
did you get? So we got Ellen. We're talking Ellen. We already started. So just listen.
Oh, okay.
Stop your video. We'll just see a picture of you instead of you eating dinner.
I'll make it so you don't see my dinner.
Yeah, there you go. I might have to mute him.
So, Ellen, can you tell us one of the reasons why
you've been a club member for quite a while, I assume, because of all your experiences, why you decided to become a judge this last time.
Um, I have not been in the clubs that long.
Oh,
And this was the first opportunity that I did have to become a judge. And it was something that I wanted to do. And so far, last year I had one opportunity to judge, and this year I've got one opportunity. And it seems that the opportunities for new judges, especially the females, is not occurring.
Well, all right.
So,
FYI, you want to come to Staten Island? I'll put you on.
all right. So, Antoinette, you still there?
Yep.
Are you guys experiencing the same problem with the judges you're in Connecticut? Are you guys?
I'm in Connecticut. It's probably a sin to say, but it's so much easier to judge through this Zoom as it is to drive forever to get to the club, to spend several hours there and then drive back. It has made my ability to judge fine. It has helped me in that respect. I have
Yeah.
invited judges from Florida and Tennessee to our club. It's really worked out well for us, Roman.
But so are you getting, again, are you having the problem of having new judges? Is that still an issue for you guys?
Not really. What we usually do in Connecticut is ask other clubs to send us 3 judges, and it usually works well. Some clubs specifically ask specific people to judge. I'm happy to have everybody learn.
Right.
One thing that we started at our club, the judges receive our images the Sunday before our competition. We have a program called The Judge, and they select the scores, and then the scores are then tabulated, and then on Wednesday night, which is our competition night, the judges come and they see the scores and they comment on the images.
Wow. Okay. That's an interesting concept because that's a little different. So that's something.
If you want to see it, Roman, our next Wednesday, a week from tonight, is our judging. If you'd like to see it, I'll put you on our list.
All right, I'll be there because.
Thank you.
Again, what we're looking to do is not only share. A lot of the people that are here on the screen are speakers as well on programs, and this pandemic has made us all reconsider where we're getting our speakers, judges, and everything else.
That's true.
So it's kind of interesting to say that we're now sharing with other states, other countries, Vicky, and I know CamNat's had somebody from Ireland and things like that. So these are things that we have to adapt as a camera club. I've been a member of a camera club for over 30, I don't even want to say 30, and I've been way too long, okay. So I've seen that what happens is the clubs that don't adapt or don't embrace new technology, it becomes a problem. But I'm going to get back to the judges because this is about them. I think, Richard, you did the judging program. You're next up on my queue because I went back that way. So.
okay. So I've been a judge for a couple of years now. So I wasn't in the last class. I was in the class before that.
Okay.
And by the way, the judging class is an excellent one because it, I think to Shlomo's, description, it is a learning process, and the judging is really helpful in terms of learning your craft a little better because you pay attention a little closer to certain things than you do before you've actually been put on the hot seat. So I've done about 5 or 6 over the last year and a half to 2. I've got, I think, 3 lined up this year. Some are repeats. Some are not because they shut down events. For example, I did the Sussex Fair photo competition a year or so ago, and they didn't have a competition this year because there was no show to, to host it. But it's a very interesting experience, and it's a good one in terms of, as you say, being on the hot seat, because you have to actually do the consideration. You have to pay attention. You have to employ all of the techniques that you've learned as a photographer, but also that you've learned over the year in terms of commenting on other people's photographs. So it's a very good experience.
All right. So since you've been doing it, and I see Becky on my screen and Phil behind her and Dave. So this is kind of actually where, you did the first class. So we do judges training. I'm probably going to ask you guys at some point in time, even after I'm gone, to do, and so we can record a judges training.
That's a
I
good
think that
idea.
would be good.
That's a
So
great
that
idea.
we can show people what we're looking for. I know Ellen's getting a list together, so we're going to put it on our website of what judges need to look for. But I think the YouTube video, if we have the judges training class, even with people who have done it before, and we can talk about the experience, that this is going to help the newer judges coming in. And listen, like I said, 35 years a Camera Club member. Antoinette, you probably beat me by a year, maybe.
Because of the gray hair.
Yeah, but yay, mine's all gray and white, so don't worry about it. But the interesting part about it is we always hear the complaints about the judges. That's a Camera Club staple, phone calls, the next day about the judging. So, Becky, you did the last training. Phil's been judging a little bit longer. And so tell me about that experience of, I know you sat in the Camnat's chair and you've seen judges. How do you like the chair?
I find the chair a challenge. You always want to do a good job, and you're hoping you're interpreting what you're seeing correctly, and then you're giving commentary that is useful and helpful, whether it's positive or improvements as well. The others talked about how long they've been photographing. I've probably been photographing for about 10 years, but I've been a member of the Camera Club for about 15 years. It took me 5 years before I decided to put anything, even in the B class, the first beginner's class. But I also watched Bill give many classes about photography, so I sat through those like 15 years, and I still do. And I've watched Phil and others judge for many years. And I felt the reason I went in was because I felt we needed more judges. And I've also had experience judging Phil after he judged. So.
Wait. I had my kids judge when they were little. Dad, it's too dark. It's too bright. Really?
So, so the training was very helpful. The particular part that was helpful was not only the lecture part, the notes about, well, what to do and not to do, but also the examples, the samples where you got to actually practice judging. And I think more of that is just invaluable. I mean, that was really helpful. And I've judged once at the end of last season for one of my clubs. Matter of fact, Phil helps me get judging things. He was judging, we had 2 competitions, and since he was judging, I couldn't enter anyway. He said, well, now that you've had the training, you're going to judge one of those competitions, and I'll judge the other, which was my first. And then I know I judged one so far this year. I have one tonight, but again, that was Phil couldn't make it, so he gave my name to my wife judges. So I've got at least 1, maybe 2 more like that. I have one for NJFCC this month for a pictorial. So I have several lined up. I haven't really looked ahead in the calendar. I know I have a couple throughout the year coming up.
Welcome to the hot seat, as I like to call it.
Yeah, but as Richard says, it really gets me to think about what I'm seeing, and it starts getting me to think about my own images as I work on them.
So, and I'm gonna pose this as a general question. Are you guys, you went through the judging class. We know we're not going to have an in-person judging class until sometime next year, hopefully, right? What says we can't redo what we did with you new judges sitting in the chair, and we have 3-4 seasoned judges critiquing your critiques? Are you guys comfortable with that? And recording it for posterity on Zoom and YouTube.
Sure.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I love that idea because then we can watch the judges judge before we bring them into our clubs.
Oh, that's true too.
Absolutely. Great idea.
I also know that, I mean, some of the clubs give feedback to judges, some don't, but I also asked when I was judging, many of the clubs that I judge at, you know, there are other judges and some of them I know, or I ask Phil to watch and I get them to give me feedback. I think that's important. And it's not always, you know, it's not always everything was fine. There's learning to do for me too. So, I like to have my own judging critiqued in a positive way, obviously, to give me feedback so that I can improve.
Right. So I call it the hot seat because you know that somebody in the club through the judging is not happy. And I'm going to bring in one of the more seasoned judges. Dave, you still awake?
Yes.
You know, more well-seasoned judges. I'll go with that.
Very well seasoned.
Yeah. You know that you walk into it, and you and I were part of and this is what I'm recommending to people. We were part of a website that we critiqued, but we weren't in the hot seat. We had time to sit there and think about the response and type it out. When you're in the hot seat, and the reason I call it in the hot seat, you've got a couple of seconds to make up your mind and
Right.
make a decision and
Correct.
how to help. So that's why I like what Ellen's going to take as judges. You need to talk about how to improve the image, blah, blah, blah. So we're evolving, but, you know, talk a little bit more about judging because you're one of the elder statesmen of judging. I'll use that.
I think it's important. The only way you get better at judging is to judge. If you don't judge, you don't have the experience. You don't get the vocabulary that you need, the way of presenting. I've been judging now, I guess, about 17, 18 years. And
I know you longer than that. Don't lie.
true.
20, 25.
It's true. But I've been judging for about 17, 18 years. But I generally look for something positive because you can always find something positive, even if you like the idea the person had. You can generally pick something out quickly, and if the image is poor, then you can start going into what you would do to make it better, or a tip you might have in improving it, or show them exactly what you mean. And I think it's important to, not during the whole competition, but to stress at some point during the competition that this is your opinion. You don't want people to think always that what you're saying is godlike, but you want them to basically learn something while they're watching the competition. An 8 or a 9 doesn't mean anything 3 hours after the competition. It's what you come away from the competition that the judge has informed you about and made you think about pertaining your image or somebody else's image. So you want to come away with possibly a new concept, a new way of looking at an image, a new way of you're presenting an image. There's a lot of variables here, but it's important that a judge teaches. If a judge just gives scores, really doesn't give the maker some concept or some way of improvement or some tip, then I don't think they're fulfilling their function, because a camera club is designed for one thing, is to learn. And basically, judging is part of learning.
All right. So, you did good.
Okay.
And you know that it always varies depending on the topic or situation.
Sure.
And abstracts are usually the hardest because
Abstracts are the most
objective.
Right.
Yeah.
Subjective. And I always state that if I'm doing that type of competition, I say, listen, you know, I could love this or I could not like it, and another judge can be the opposite. So just be aware of that, you know.
All right, Mary, I know you got another meeting, so I'm going to put you up on the hot seat next.
Okay. I forgot what I'm supposed to all say. I guess I've been in clubs about 10 years, and during, I'm in CamNats, of course. I'm in Livingston, and I'm in Sparta. And there's a wide variety in the levels uh, of the images that we see. But for most of those 10 years, I've been dutifully watching the judges, and at the beginning learning and complaining that, oh no, that's not right. And
By the way, I heard you in that chair. All right, I heard you.
hey,
Just saying.
never said it out loud. Well, maybe I did.
Yeah,
Anyway.
you think you're whispering, but I heard you. I might be blind, but I'm not deaf. You know, I'm just saying.
Okay, that's fine. But in any event, but I've tried to listen, you know, to what the judges are saying and so forth. And so the longer I've been in the club, the more I decided that, oh, I'm either coming up with the same kinds of thoughts and typically similar scores, sometimes not, other times, you know, always trying to guess ahead what the judge is going to say, what the judge is going to give it as a score. So I figured if, you know, if I'm going to be guessing along with the judge, I might as well train to be a judge and everything. So far, I've got 5 things set up. One of them, of course, is in Livingston, and they're having me do a critique. And one of them, I'm not sure. They didn't really come. You know, after they asked me and I agreed, they didn't come back and confirm. So maybe I really only have 4. But one thing that did happen, I had an impromptu critique at Sparta. One of their, you know, super advanced people was going to do a critique on our back to club night. And she felt uncomfortable, so they called me up and says, you want to do it together? So what we did was she and I looked at the images, went through the images together the night before the actual meeting, and then during the meeting we, you know, took turns on doing them, and that was a big help to us. It was also, it, you know, it gave me more confidence in that I could talk things over with this woman who is you know, a very experienced photographer, but yet she was uncomfortable, you know, speaking the critique. And since I was called in last minute, I didn't have a lot of time to think about it. We just went ahead and did it. And I thought that was helpful. So I was going to say to Shlomo, we could do that sometime. We'll get, now my critique at Livingston isn't until April, but beforehand we've got a couple others, and I lost Jordan, but we can have Jordan set us up like a day or so before, since I have the laptop, and we can go through the images, and the 2 of us can do a similar thing and discuss it. And I'll tell you what I see, you tell me what you see, and we'll see if we agree. And I think that that's beneficial. At least it helped me in, you know, in a confidence level. And what it is it's a confidence level until you've, you know, been doing it enough times so that you're not worried about, you know, coming up with the vocabulary and all that kind of thing. Because I'm sure we all have the same feel for a particular picture. It's just a matter of being able to say it. And of course, as you said, coming up with, what do you say when an image is really not all that good? And we had a lot of them that night, so I got a lot of practice that night.
Well, so interestingly enough, Antoinette, you're still here. I see you on the queue. I know you got to leave. I hope you're still here.
No, I'm here.
All right. So,
Roman, I have judged many out-of-state judgings, and I collect some of the images and I put them on a thumb drive, and I do what Mary did with the other lady. I give the thumb drive to a member of the club. They download the images. I have them look at them, and then we talk over the phone and discuss, as Mary did with the other lady, what's positive, how could it be improved, that kind of thing. And that works very well as also.
So the interesting part about this, because Dave and I were part of birdphotographers.net, where we could sit back and critique. We were the landscape moderators. And interestingly, we commented in other areas. So what you said about getting the images in advance to the judges, I don't think New Jersey has thought about this.
Well, I'm inviting you to our judging next Wednesday.
Oh, I am very big about this because what I'm hearing, Mary, Shlomo, and everything else, if you could sit back instead of being in the hot seat, like saying, oh my God, I got 5 seconds to give this thing a score and say something proper, the fact that you could sit back, get feedback, maybe even 2 judges, and say, what do you, and toss it back. What are the merits of, especially the bad image? Everybody sees a good image. Oh, wow, good. We know what the score is. The bad images are the ones that take your breath away, that you're like, I got to say something smart about this. I think it's horrible. Holy God, you know. But when you have time, which you don't have in the hot seat, you don't have time. You got to come up with something positive, as Dave said, to say in 5 seconds. So maybe we need to rethink our competitions and how we run our competitions, because in person that night, the judge is still in that hot seat. You know, you got 5 seconds to decide, make up.
I think it's doable since we're doing it all on Zoom, because you're usually gathering your pictures at least a day or two before the actual meeting. So you do have that opportunity, assuming that, you know, you have the time, because, you know, you might, you know, someone might have something else to do.
So new judges, do you believe that would help you be
Absolutely.
more, you know, where you can sit there and think about the image? And
It takes the
again,
pressure off.
there's a reason I call it the hot seat, because Dave, have you heard them? They think they're whispering. We've heard them. You know, Phil, have you heard them? Yeah, we've heard them. You know, we hear you.
Believe me, we do.
But, you know, so it's interesting that this is a concept we haven't thought about before. And again, I'm looking at it from a financial standpoint and everything else for clubs. Some clubs are doing very well. I know Phil and Becky's judging Ridgewood. They're well financially. Some clubs aren't doing so well. But if you can do this for clubs that are struggling or whatever, and you have time to look over the images and talk about them and say, you know, Dave knows that when we were on the critique forum, I'd call him up and I'd say, oh my God, what the hell am I going to say about this image? You know, and you don't want to, we're in a camera club. You don't want to discourage. So we're all in agreement with that. But when you're in the hot seat and you got 5 seconds, that sometimes you don't say the right thing.
Yeah, I think if you see it in advance, then the seat becomes lukewarm instead of hot.
Right,
right. I also think that it's very important for new judges to ask the night of the competition, if they have not seen the pictures before, to go through a dry run of the pictures before you get to actually commenting on them. That rehearsal, that going through the 15 or 20 in a category, makes a big difference, because you have no idea what the quality differences between, you know, the 1s through the 9s are going to look like. And so, you know, if you're very excited about an early photograph, it may unduly be biased because you're not sure what's to come. So I think whenever I've done judging, I've always asked them to, let's go through the photographs really quickly. You don't have to spend a lot of time you know, going through the dry run, but you get a chance to see what the connections are in that particular group. And in most clubs, there are different levels of groups, and yet you find very wide variations in terms of the quality, even within, you know, the masters group or the salons group. Sometimes you'll find pictures that are just utterly surprising.
But if it's a 9 to start off with, why should it make any difference what the following images are?
Well,
it doesn't stand on its own quality that it has.
No, it ultimately does not matter, other than clubs themselves have told judges, here's the percentage we like to look at in terms of the quality. Now, I think that overall among the clubs that I've seen, there's been some loosening of that. Certainly the NJFCC competitions haven't done that. You know, they run a pretty rigid schedule in terms of the numbers of photographs that they do. So, but I do think that you have no idea what the quality of the, you know, the mean or the best and the worst. It's really useful to actually see that before you actually start commenting on them. And by the way, that takes about 2 minutes.
All right, so I'm going to
Actually, I'd like to say something. Actually, I kind of, if a club asks me, you know, for a run through, I don't want to see a run through, because I don't like to be biased by looking at the top images all at once and say to myself, I can't give that a 9 because that image is better. In other words, I don't want to compare anything. I want to take each image by itself, look at it, take it apart in its pieces, and make an adjudication based on what I see. I don't want to have any comparisons to each individual image. I want to look at them separately.
I love that.
Well, so here's where I'm going to agree. In a certain extent, there are clubs that are not that strong. So I recommend a different tact. Go look at their website. See, before you go judging, go look at the website. There's usually makers images. You see the strength. You know, I've gone to clubs and said, okay, I can't judge it by CamNat standards. I can't, you know, because if I judged it that way, forget about it. I'd be kicked out to the curb. So, you know, you gotta be flexible, number one. Realize, but I say instead of seeing the images before, because some clubs have hundreds and hundreds of images, you know, if they've got 20 or 30, yeah, I want to blow through. I'm okay with that. Quickly, let me see the images, and that way I could see it. But if you have bigger clubs that have hundreds and hundreds of images, well, then I go to the club website and hopefully they have different classes. And by the way, if they have different classes, you can't judge. You know, all of you know me, you've seen me judge. I'm ruthless on salon or the highest class. You know, you should know better. All right. I'm giving you no quarter. I might have given the B class, beginner class, whatever, the first class, a higher score than I would any other class, because we're welcoming them into the club. I'm not going to beat them up. So I have a rule that if you're a beginner class, I'm more lenient. I'm going to look away from some of the things, but if you're in salon, if you're in the highest class, no mercy from me. There's none. Sorry, you guys know that.
I'm not going to ask you to judge my stuff.
No,
Hey, Roman.
You know, there you go. I'm not judging anymore, so there you go. So, you know, but that's basically the way I want the beginners, because we're all looking at the beginners and saying, okay, we want to encourage them. We don't want to discourage them. Salon, they're going to be talking about me whether I give them a 9, an 8, or whatever score I give them. They're going to be talking about me. I don't care. I kind of like that. I get phone calls every day after a competition. So, you know, I'm okay with that.
No,
Hey, Roman, I've got to take off, and let me just get 2 cents in if I could.
No problem.
Because I'm a reasonably new judge too. I've only been doing it about 4 or 5 years.
5.
One of the best ways that I found to hone my skills is to go to the websites of every camera club I can get and record my comments, and then listen back to them and then self-critique. It's been a very good tool for me. And we all have recorders on our phones now. It's easy enough to do. So you might try to do that to help build your vocabulary and to get more confidence. The one thing that I find lacking on many judges is the treatment of the B group versus the A or the salon. I think you not only have to go easier on them, but you have to be more instructional.
right.
You know, half the time we get an advanced judge that knows what's wrong with it, and he doesn't describe it and just give the solution, not only how to crop, let's say, but where to crop and or what tools in Photoshop to use. And we really need to do a better job of that as a group.
Right. And so and we're just going to quickly go over it, your annotate where you can show
Right.
on the virtual thing. So we've put it on the website. We're going to make sure we pass that out to everybody. So everybody that's virtually judging knows how, instead of saying, I can point with my laser pointer in person, say crop here, but when you're doing virtually, you can't. So, all right. Good seeing you, Jordan. We will
Okay.
definitely take that out.
Hi, Jordan.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye,
Jordan.
I go, Bill, you did the class, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
You're up next. You're in my queue.
Okay. Well, I have not been invited yet to any judging. Personally, I started out taking pictures in the early 70s. I had just come out of college and was given a new camera and fell in love with images and taking photos. I had my own dark room for many years, processed a lot of photos. As time went on, I got a full-time job and photography fell to the side. But after I retired, my daughter saw some of my old photos and inspired me. And she bought me a camera and I started shooting again. That was 2014 and really fell in love with it. I've been actively shooting since. I joined the Ridgewood Camera Club back in 2015. Really enjoy the competitions, mostly because I love images. I love looking at them and talking about them and discussing them and how they fit into our culture and just all aspects. And mostly, it's been really entertaining following all the judges that have come in, and it's just really fascinating when you really take the time to look at an image and think about it and express your opinion. I was a member of, so I've been a member of Ridgewood since 2015. Last year I joined Tina Camera Club. For a while I was a member in both camera clubs. In Ridgewood I became the nature chairman for a couple of years. And that's kind of where I am. When the judging opportunity came, I thought it was a way to even become more involved in looking at images and discussing images. And a number of people this evening have talked about getting feedback, and that's what I most look forward to. Although I haven't been a judge yet, I really enjoyed the training class. And sitting in that hot seat and almost wish that there was more to it because I really enjoyed it. I mean, like, I really respected the people who were critiquing me and instantly learned a lot of stuff. And now I can only imagine that if you were somehow to do this recording and in your leisure be able to look at these judging performances or even do a fake judging and then have real judges. I mean, the guys that have been doing it a few years, look at my critique and like, let's say a half-hour critique or something. And that's how to become acquainted with becoming a little more professional about it. But I really look forward to, like, I would say that the first time I am invited to do a judging, I would, maybe this is the wrong thing to do, but I would ask the club when I'm finished to give me feedback. I mean, that may be a big no-no for you guys, that have been doing it a while, and that's the last thing you want, but I figure, how else am I going to learn? I mean, if I would be amazed if there was somebody I gave a 6 to and then had an opportunity to speak with that maker and discuss that image, like, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Let's go from here, so I'd be interested to find out what your thoughts were. I mean, is that a possibility that after you
Yeah, it is, because some clubs do it, some clubs like it, and the bottom line is, I think, so, all right.
Phil had to leave, but that was one of the things he wanted to say, that he felt that the feedback he gets from clubs on his judging, and I agree with him, is helpful. Obviously, you know, there are going to be the people, it's going to be like any kind of feedback. There's some things you take with a big grain of salt and some things you like a lot, and then there's the stuff in between that's probably more realistic. And he felt that judges need to be able to take the feedback just like we're giving people feedback.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, I look at this as a learning experience to improve my own photography, you know?
Well, so we might add something to the judges.
I have to leave. I have
All
to
right,
leave.
see you, Mary.
Okay, bye.
We're going to add something, I guess, to the form to say, I guess the judges want feedback, don't want feedback, things like that, because I think that is important. But I'm going to tell you guys, as speaking all over the country in front of thousands and thousands of people, that 10% of the audience, you're over their head. 10% of the audience think you were dead wrong. If you get 80%, you're good. You know, it's a good batting average.
Well, I guess initially I would need that 80% to at least feel that I'm in the ballpark.
Right. And if you got more bad feedback, then you got to say, okay.
Right. Absolutely.
I also think, Roman, if clubs are, if we're Zooming and clubs are recording it, Bill, your idea to actually, or Jordan's idea to see how you go back and look at your own judging.
Well,
Sure.
so those are new things that we're going to ask clubs to do. We're going to ask the judges, do you want feedback? Some people, ego can't handle it. Trust me,
Right.
Dave and I have seen it 1,000 times. You know, it's like, all right, sometimes it's like, yeah. I mean, I remember the first time I judged, I'm not going to name the club, Dave, it was your club, Uncle. But it was 30 years ago. And somebody came up to me and says, you did pretty good, kid, but this is why you were, I was a kid then, you know, but this is why you were wrong. You know, so don't be discouraged when you hear that. You know, I'm going to ask you all while you're sitting here, do you think anybody enters whatever your scoring system, let's say it's 3 to 9, do you think anybody enters a 5 or a 6? Anybody? No, they don't. They don't say that they're going to enter that. So what I've gotten out of this personally is that whole give it a couple of times to work out your critique. That is a good thing. Both Dave and I know that.
Let me just say one thing, if I could, Roman.
Sure.
When I first started judging, there was no such thing as a judge's school. They threw you right in there, and with no preparation, with nothing, all I had to go by was looking at other judges, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent, and come up with my own way of doing it. But what I did was, in order to become more familiar with the terminology and the vocabulary, I went to certain websites where they had a lot of images, and they were of all different calibers. And I went through them, and verbally out loud, I would judge them. And I would do that continually until I felt comfortable with myself doing it. And I found that that's a way to practice before you actually walk into a room.
And I think that's what
And identifying images, you know.
Jordan was talking about, that turn your iPhone on to record.
Right.
Go to a website, nature photography,
Anywhere.
500 pics, wherever, and start to critique image, and critique the image as if you saw it in the competition.
Exactly.
And
you'll find that you'll be more glib and you'll be more comfortable with the way you phrase images, and also the speed at which you can identify certain aspects of an image that you're looking at.
Right.
And then you have a whole litany of ideas as you're talking. And I find as I'm critiquing an image, I'm also evaluating an image. Right. So that gives me more time than 5 seconds. It gives me 30 seconds.
Right. And by doing that, I think it makes you quicker in the hot seat.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So I see Leslie on here. I'm not sure if did you take the judging class, Leslie? No, she didn't. All right, that's good, but you're paying attention. Let's see, who else? Who have I not? Eric, I know you didn't. Oh, wait, David, I didn't get you?
Huh?
I didn't get you in the class?
Well, I was in the class, but you didn't.
I didn't ask you. All right. Wait a minute. You're like the pro now. So David is the president of Morris Photo, or co-president. Are you still president for life? You know, that's usually how it works.
Rick and I are co-presidents, but because some of us get stuck in places like Singapore for long periods of time. But so I'm David Unger. I started taking photographs when I was 8. So I've been at this a few years now. I have an accent because I'm originally from New Zealand. And as you said, I'm currently the co-president of Morris Photo Color Club, and I also belong to CanMats. And I decided to judge because I actually think judging helped improve my photography more than anything else. Not my judging others, but being judged, because it made me think very hard about many things that I was doing right and wrong. So I thought that that was very helpful. I have been invited to judge for, I've got 3 judging engagements this coming year. The first one's next month. And at Morris Photo Color, we do survey the judges, and we do it online. And now that people can reply online over the next day, we get pages and pages of comments, which we typically feed back to the judges. And one of the key questions we ask the members is, do you want this judge to come back? And then we basically rank the judges based on whether the members say yes, no, never. So we that's how we do it. And it works out quite well. I mean, there is a fairly high agreement on who good judges are and who not so good judges are. So what else can I say? That's about it. I mean, I take nature photographs, cityscapes, architecture, macro, and I dabble in creative photography.
Is there anything you could think, because I see internet's, I think, gone, but is there anything, and I'm asking you all of this, the new judges, that we can add to the bio, what you want, what you like, you know, blah, blah. We've discussed, do you want a critique back? I'm going to put that, yes or no. Do you want a critique back, yes or no? Because some of the seasoned judges don't want that. Would you guys be offended by that, you know, as a consensus? But I think I just need to put that in there and say yay or nay, because bottom line is some people don't want the feedback. You know, you're going to be across the board. I think when you guys are putting out these questionnaires to the membership, why do you feel the judge did a bad job? You know?
Yeah, and in fact, you know, the feedback, even on the same judge, tends to vary, at least the verbal feedback. I mean, the written feedback, from this is the best judge I've ever seen in my life, to this judge needs to get his glasses fixed.
Yeah.
Same judge.
Right. Well, and welcome to a camera club. That's basically my experience. And that's why I worry about the feedback, because the person that didn't get the good score or whatever has an issue. So Eric, the only one that I see up here, I'm going to unmute you now. Ask you, you're still there, right, Eric? Eric's probably longer in the camera club than I am.
He needs to unmute himself, I think.
I think he's coming. I asked him.
1978.
1978. Wait.
Anybody beat me by 1978?
No. I'm pretty sure.
I got sucked into 1978.
President for life. See, there you go. That's what you like, you know. So what do you think about the judges?
What happened is became a president first, and then just like Dave said, the next thing it was, you got a judge. And it was, they threw you in a seat, and at the end of the night, they actually said, you know, you really know your stuff. And it was, from then on in, it was the same damn thing, you know, like I would go in and, yeah, I get feedback at the end.
We're losing.
And thing I can tell you is, I have, I have critiqued websites, which I think is really good. Like you guys are saying, if you go to a website like and put your critique in, um, just take it as you see it. I mean, you can train for judging, but it's really not like the actual experience of you really just sitting there and doing a job.
Which is why this whole idea of doing competitions in advance, giving them to the judges, so the judge is very intriguing.
Yeah.
And that's a concept we in New Jersey haven't really embraced, but that gives the judge the chance to look at the images, think about them, critique them,
Right.
more time. I think more time. Does anybody disagree with me on that? I mean, listen, I love the hot seat. I've been doing it a
No.
long time. But I think this is, again, we're not going to replace the competitions, but even I would like that, because then when you're, especially with the B class and stuff we've been talking about, you can expand on, well, maybe you can tone down this area, take the image and
Right.
be a little bit more precise with your critique, because you have time. You're having your coffee in the morning, and now you can go through the images at your leisure instead of literally, Dave, you still awake?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to say something, as a matter of fact. I wanted to say something.
All right, go for it.
What that does is that becomes a whole, if you have all the time in the world, let's say you have an hour or whatever you need to look at an image and to dissect it, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing as sitting there in front of an audience with a certain allotted amount of time in judging. It becomes an entirely different thing. Now, in some cases, I think it's better because it gives the judge all the time in the world to look at an image, and somebody who is not necessarily glib or not necessarily good at coming up with a lot of immediate ideas, it gives them time to compose those ideas and actually relate them. But it all depends on what type of competition a club wants to do. If a club is willing to have somebody judge that way, well, that's fine. If not, then you have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Well, and think about it. What Antoinette was talking about is that, and Mary actually commented on a little bit, the clubs get the images in advance.
Right.
So why?
Somebody has to organize them. Yeah.
What says you can't?
Question, how?
Well, you had them on Photo Contest Pro, and then you send them to the judge in advance, or you via Dropbox, okay? And so, or Dropbox or similar, or whatever poison you do to do the images. And now the judge can sit there on his computer or Google Slides. I just did something on Google Slides. You put in, and then you could put in your comments. So now during the day of the competition, you can sit there and somebody can project the image and read the judge's comments. Like I said, this is just ideas. These are not, but I think this is a way of doing competitions, because I think universally, with the comments that I hear about judging, and Dave, you and I were part of the website where we used to call each other and laugh. I go, what the hell am I going to say about this image? I kid you not. We're on a critique forum, and it's like, what am I going to say about this image? I mean, it was that bad.
Right.
And we kind of said, we don't want to discourage. It was a critique forum. You don't want to tell the person, what were you thinking? Oh my God, this is the worst image I've ever seen. That's not what camera clubs do.
No, you kind of come up with something constructive, and you don't want to hammer them, but by the amount of constructive criticism, you're really relaying that there's a lot of work to be done in the image.
Yeah, the wrong time of day. This is not
Roman.
Yeah.
David,
I was going to say what our club does is we do an internal critique before the actual competition.
Well, I'm judging tomorrow. Let me know how I did. You know, I'm sure I did great. By the way, you know, just saying. You know.
Oh no, well.
When I have to leave, it's
All right.
I have to go
great.
too, buddy.
You guys
No
are
problem.
great.
So we're all I think we're all pretty good. We've covered a lot. Glad Antoinette was able to be here. I hope to get you guys out to other states. That's what I plan on doing with the new judges in particular, and then I'll work on the entire judging list, because I think bottom line is that's just going to give you more experience.
I
And
think one of the things that does need to be added is something sent to the presidents and the delegates, that a listing of who the new judges are, and because right now the new judges just fade into the entire judging list, and people have a tendency to go back to if they even look at that list, first of all, but they have a tendency to go back to judges that they've used in the past.
Ellen, I can go in and pretend to make a change on the judge and save it, and it'll go back to green, so the new judges can all be green again.
But see, what I'm saying is, if they even look at that list, I think we actually need to send something out to the presidents and the delegates saying, these are our new judges, please consider, etc.
well, so the only difference with that is it's going to be your problem in a couple of months, is that
Yeah.
you know, do the delegates pass this on to the competition chairs, which in most club changes yearly, every other year, every 3 years. So that's something we have to tackle as the federation, and we'll talk about it. But
Communication.
I think for now, I think opening it up to, so does anybody think opening it up to other states is crazy?
No.
No.
I think it's great.
Fine.
As long as we're
Yeah,
Right.
and
Well, that's the only way you're going to be. But listen, I know Florida has contacted me about judges, and Massachusetts and other areas. Why not?
It's fine.
We got to stop thinking locally and think globally.
Okay.
And so I'm going to approach it that way. Thank you all for taking your time tonight. Thank you all for joining.
Everybody, it was really good.
Thank you very much.
It was nice seeing everybody.
You're awake, Dave. Thank you. All right. Well,
He's
all
going
right.
dancing now.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Stopping the recording.